grind. It is Thursday. It is time for our weekly draft. And this week we are drafting Disney villains. And we kept this as authentic Disney cartoon villains. No Marvel, no Star Wars, no any other Disney property that's not a cartoon that I can't think of off the top of my head. All of these cast of characters are up for grabs, or any others that we might think of along the way. Do we have a coin to flip? We don't. Rock, paper, scissors. Let's go.
Two-shot it.
Okay.
Hit us with a two-shot, Jacob. So we can get this rock, paper, scissors on. 1, 2, 3, shoot.
1, 2, 3, shoot.
All right. Best
Okay.
2 or 3 or first one?
2 or 3.
All right.
Okay. Rock,
1,
paper, scissors, shoot.
I got it. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ha ha! Let's go! First pick.
Oh, this is tough. Oh, I'm nervous.
Overall,
I'm nervous.
I don't know how the hell it's not Scar. I'm not sure how it's not Scar. When you think about what he did, he killed his brother and sent his nephew off to die. Never mind the whole, I think Be Prepared is the best Disney villain song of all time, and there are some great Disney villain songs. I love me a good Disney villain song. He had Be Prepared, where the hyenas are marching eerily similar to that group over in Germany once upon a time. It's like, whoa, wait a second. In a children's movie, we got hyenas marching like this? He got them all in line, a bunch of ragtag and leaderless buffoons. He got them in line to do what? To kill his brother, and do it in such a way where it looks like an accident, and then force the hyenas onto the lioness's pride in Pride Rock. And what did he do once he got power? What all greedy dictators do once they get power: run the neighborhood into the ground. It's destitute, excuse me, by the time Scar gets done with it when Simba returns. Think about how dry. Not only did he eat all of the animals that were there in the circle of life, but he literally had the hyenas and the lionesses drinking Pride Rock dry. Remember how dry Pride Rock was? Not only were there bones and skeletons all laying around, but it was so dry that when the lightning struck, it causes this great fire. That's how greedy Scar was. Give me Scar, number 1 overall. Let's go.
He also, as many great villains, has some humor behind him that helps push it away. Be Prepared is one of the greatest villain songs of all time. I'm not going to argue with you, but I think there could be a secondary number 1 obvious choice, and that would be my first pick, the Witch of the Sea, Ursula.
Oh, that's a good one.
Banger of a song in Poor Unfortunate Souls. One of, if not the best villain songs possible. When she says, "They weren't kidding when they called me, well, a witch, but you'll find that nowadays I've mended all my ways, repented, seen the light, and made a switch." True. Yes. Don't underestimate the power of body language. Not only is this a sea witch who is actually acting as a villain within the Disney version of The Little Mermaid, which is a very dark fairy tale to begin with, but she's also teaching all of us as we're watching, you don't need your voice. You just need your body to go out and make Prince Eric fall in love with you. And successfully it was, and ended up being the demise of Ursula ultimately. But she is a giant squid trying to take over the seas by collecting little shriveled worms of souls that she collects along the way. Stealing voices, she is vengeful with a capital V. She hates King Triton, her dear brother. Everything is horrible. She has great sidekicks, which also helps make a good villain because you have to have great sidekicks. Her little poopsies in Flotsam and Jetsam. Tier 1 sidekicks. And she was originally supposed to, I learned as preparing for this draft, Ursula was originally supposed to be voiced by B. Arthur of the Golden Girls. And something happened where she didn't get along with Alan Menken, director-creator, and they brought in Pat Carroll instead. And that iconic Ursula laugh will live forever. Ursula the Sea Witch, my number 1 pick.
Other things I learned in researching Ursula, because there's clearly tiers to this, and Ursula is top tier. Unfortunately, I knew if I took one, I wasn't getting the other one. You just have to live with that. It's a draft.
It's a tough
but Ursula was also not supposed to be an octopus.
Oh.
She was supposed to be, so originally that character does not show up in the original telling of The Little Mermaid. Okay. It is a dark fairy tale, but that character is not in it. They put her in it in the Disney story. Because
Okay.
we need a villain.
Right.
We need somebody to clearly make this story without going all the way left with it, too dark for kids. We need the battle of good versus evil. So we'll create this giant octopus character, not octopus, giant shark-like character, because sharks have a negative connotation. And then they're like, well, we don't like the way sharks move. We can make her octopus, though, and put a hit on her. And whose head do we use? We use Divine, the drag queen. And so there are, with a lot of these Disney villains, especially the early ones, there are, I guess we call it queer coded. Queer coding, where is, okay, you're borrowing these sorts of antics from the LGBTQ community and you're making them evil. Think about the way Scar moves. Think about the way Ursula moves, Jafar moves, Hades, where there's a bit of pizzazz, a bit more flair to what they're doing.
Man or show womanship.
Man, yes. So there is that going on. And with Ursula, that was actually the case. They said, hey, we want to make this one different, this villain stand out in such a way. Who can we mold this person off of? And if you look at Ursula's, throw Ursula's picture back up there. I should have seen Divine's picture.
Even the mole.
The mole, the way that Ursula does the makeup, the mohawk that is there on top of her head, all of that is from this one really, really famous drag queen from that time, Divine. So I hate that I wasn't able to.
When you say you did research, holy shit.
Yeah, well, first off, I just knew that about Ursula. I knew that about Ursula because Ursula is such an interesting character.
She is.
That's what's great about some of these.
She inspired me to wear blue eyeshadow.
That's what these villains, the good ones, do. They are interesting in a way that other characters aren't. You don't necessarily agree with them. I don't necessarily agree with the Joker, but he's interesting. Much the same way as I don't think that you should kill your brother to rule the kingdom, but Scar is remarkably interesting. Ursula fits that mold also.
You should not kidnap your brother's daughter and steal her voice and send her out into the wild.
How weird is that? We've got to get moving here, but
we've spent 10 minutes on
one is a mermaid and the other one is an octopus creature?
It's quite the dynamic.
Somebody stepped out on somebody. All right, so you got Ursula.
I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous.
Oh, gosh. I'm pretty sure my other villains are going to make it to me. What do we call my man, the witch doctor from Princess and the Frog?
Facilier.
Dr. Facilier.
Okay.
Give him to me.
He's scary.
Anybody, friends on the other side, talking about having ghost friends that make things happen for you? Anybody, first off, anybody who can control ghosts is evil. Is next level evil. And that song right there is another great song. Friends on the Other Side, a great villain song. Facilier, for those of you who don't know, Princess and the Frog, he's the one that ends up, spoiler alert, turning the prince into the frog so that he can get the riches and the power and the accolades. He is my number 2 pick. 1, because I wasn't sure if I'd get him back. But 2, because he is a very, very powerful sort of wizard, witch doctor sort of thing, and it's just creepy to see the shadows looming behind him. It is uneasy watching that film for the person to be doing one thing and the shadow to be off doing other things like kidnapping other shadows and stuff like that. So give me Dr. Facilier.
He was on my long list, not my short list. I was so worried you might steal this next one from me, and it was my most important pick. I know number 1 should be your most important, but that can exist. Like you said, there's some options there at tier 1. This is probably my favorite Disney villain of all time, and that would be Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, okay.
Voiced by the great Eartha Kitt. Alama!
Wait a
He's
second.
supposed to be dead!
Wait a second. Who Eartha Kitt? Oh, my goodness.
Forget about Santa Baby. Her best work is Yzma. Yzma is so funny, so clever, so bossy. I regularly do the bit where she says, I will turn him into a flea, a harmless little flea, and then I'll put the flea in a box, and then I'll put the box in another box, and then I'll put another box in the box, the box in the box in the other box, and then I'll smash it with a hammer. Do it all the time. It's a great bit. I will say, for those of you watching, if you are not familiar with the long-winded history and details of Emperor's New Groove. It was originally supposed to be a movie called Kingdom of the Sun, and it was so dark and twisted that Disney made them go back to the drawing board, scrap all the animation that they had done, and one of the things they had to scrap was a song for Yzma, and it is called Snuff Out the Light, and it is fantastic. You get to hear Eartha Kitt sing, which is great. You can find it on YouTube. It's also so dark. Like, and Disney loves to straddle that line in what they can get away with. So for them to be like, we've put, I don't know if it was millions of dollars at that point when they were building this movie out, but they put a lot of time and a lot of energy, and everything just went away. And an entire production number called Snuff Out the Light. So I highly suggest going and listening to it. It's fantastic. And there's, I think, a documentary that they've been trying to make. I think it was Sting. Yeah. Sting was the artist who was doing the music. So you paid for Sting, and Sting's wife was creating this documentary and filming everything along the way. So all the footage is there of how things unraveled, when everything blew up. I need to see this someday. It is in the vault, but I want that vault to be open.
Disney's not letting that out. The Emperor's New Groove is good because they didn't make it that dark. And that's one of the things, these fairy tales, if you go back and read them, they are really, really dark and twisted. And what Disney does is they make it a little bit lighter. The hero usually doesn't come out unscathed if they come out at all. If at all. I think Cinderella may have made it, but she ends up chopping off, one of her sisters ends up chopping off a foot trying to fit it into the slipper or something like that. So for Disney to say, oh, this Emperor's New Groove is a touch too far. What was it called, Jessica?
Kingdom of the Sun.
Kingdom of the Sun was a touch too far, I think was a good move. And we got some lightheartedness in Emperor's New Groove, which is a great underrated Disney movie when we sit down and think about it. And you brought up the two ills that Ursula had.
Kronk is so good.
Is it Kronk?
Kronk.
Yes, Kronk. Because Gronkowski came into existence,
it's very similar.
I confused Kronk and Gronk. Gronkowski is Kronk if Kronk was a real person.
Yes.
I love that. It was great. That's a good pick. I didn't have that on my list. I should have had.
I know it's a deep cut. I was a little nervous because sometimes you sit in that space.
I do got a deep cut.
Okay.
But this one, it's not Peter Pan. It's not Peter Pan. I don't think I'll take Peter Pan.
All right.
But Jafar.
That's a good one.
Jafar, again, if you think about my first two picks with Dr. Facilier and Scar, I think Jafar is a combination of the two. And the thing that stops Jafar from becoming Scar and just running that, where were they? Agrabah. Running Agrabah straight into the ground. The only thing that stops him is his own greed. He has everything. He has all of the power, all of the control, and that's before he becomes a genie. He is literally a sorcerer who controls the Sultan. So why not just stay in the background there?
Yeah.
Why not just be a shadow leader, a shadow ruler?
Agreed.
Almost like Rasputin. Just in the background.
Anastasia's not a...
It is.
No, it's not a Disney movie.
It is. Because they bought it. They bought it. So it wasn't made under the Disney umbrella, but they bought it.
Don't tell me that, because I would...
Well, hey. So Scar doesn't do that.
Okay.
And not Scar. Jafar doesn't do that. Instead, he ends up getting the genie. Spoiler alert, the movie came out in like 93. If you ain't seen it, you're just not going to see it. But Jafar ends up getting the lamp, wishing, and I get that, wishing to be the Sultan, wishing for all the riches in the world and all of that. But then he takes it a step too far. That's how greedy this person is. He has everything in his hand. Mm-hmm. He's like, I want to be the most powerful thing on the universe. It's like, well, that's a genie. Good luck to you. And they cast him off. So give me Jafar there. I love a good greedy dictator.
Jafar is a good one. I got to take this next one because I think you'll take it. And I have another one that I don't think you'll take. So this is strategy, and if it might bite me in the butt. But I'm going to take another deep cut. But if you know him, you know he deserves to be on the list. And that would be Judge Frollo from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Religious zealot who is trying to serve a mission from God that he is killing off all of the gypsies and using Notre Dame to essentially wipe them out. This dude kills a baby. In the first 4 minutes of this movie, he kills a baby. How can he not be on the list or orchestrates the killing of a baby? The song Hellfire is the most effed up song in Disney history. This guy is the epitome of creep, and the thing that makes Frollo so scary is that there is a reality quality to him. He is not a character, he is not a sorcerer, he is someone who could exist in the real world and has existed throughout the test of time. He is so terrifying because of that realness, and you find yourself just hoping that Quasimodo and Esmeralda and whatever the dude's name can just go live their best lives. I also wanted to be Esmeralda. My poor parents, when I was a young child, all I wanted to be for Halloween. Wasn't allowed to wear the little belly dress, but girl can dream. Judge Frollo, scary as hell. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I know
That's
a lot of people haven't ever watched Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yep.
But it's a great movie.
Yeah, another one of those underrated. I think that was in the Renaissance also. Was it not one of those Disney Renaissance movies that's not Prince Princess sort of thing? The Prince, and rightfully so. When you think about Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, you throw those in there in the 90s for the Renaissance, and then you get Lion King. I understand Hercules, but I understand how even the Emperor New Groove kind of falls through the cracks. Hunchback of Notre Dame falls through the cracks, but it is a great movie, and there is that, I think, with Scar and with the ones that I picked, Facilier and even Jafar, I think they are so far-fetched in what they are. Scar's a talking line, the other two are actual wizards. That is like, okay, I know that this can't happen, because who's going to wish to be a genie and try and take over the world? But like you said,
he's just a bad
man. He is real. Those things come around often. We've got a couple of those on the planet today. They're here in
Judge
positions
Frollo
of power.
Exists around us.
So yeah, that is what makes him uneasy and unsettling. I will go with my fourth pick. This is where the deep cut comes in.
Okay.
And I think that because he appears in other Disney properties as a fun-loving sidekick, as a hero, and because his song is such a lighthearted, fun bop, we forget, and we're not really listening to what King Louie from Jungle Book wants. But King Louie from the Jungle Book wants fire so that he can threaten the other animals in the jungle and make them bend to his will. That's why he wants the fire. So, ooh-wee-doo, I want to be like you, with that jazz beat, that uplifting, walk like you, talk like you, too. And he's begging for Mowgli to teach him how to make fire. Why is he begging for fire? So he can control everything in the jungle. That's why Baloo and that's why Bagheera have to go in and get Mowgli. Yeah. Because if Mowgli doesn't come up off of the fire, then those monkeys that Louie is in charge of, they're going to do him physical harm. And that's the type of villain, one of those who you don't like, oh, he's fun, he's lighthearted, sure. He's singing to me, we're having fun, we're dancing. Why not just give him this thing? Well, that's a villain right there. You give it to him, the whole thing changes. The whole mood, the whole vibe of it changes. And I think they did a good job in the live action.
That's exactly where my brain went, because you don't think of him when he's in his cartoon phase. It's more lighthearted, but when they made the live action, it was more of an indicator of the villainous side.
And what they did, so Louie is not first off, they wanted Louis Armstrong to do the voice. He sounds very Louis Armstrong-esque. But they didn't do it because somebody there, and this movie was made well before integration, but somebody there said, hey, you know what?
Of course.
We might not need to have a black man playing an ape. That might not be a good thing to do.
What
and so they decided,
they decided rare not did Disney make, because they have their history of
I think they have
hits.
something in here also in this movie. But either way it goes, they don't go with Louis Armstrong. They go with somebody else, and they give it that jazz feel, that upbeat sort of feel to it, with the horns and everything going on. And so in the early movie, the one from I don't know, the 40s or 50s, whenever Jungle Book came out, it is lighthearted. But Louis does not exist in the book. This is a retelling of a story that Rudyard Kipling did, and Louis is not in the book because orangutans are not native to India. So they decided to make it an orangutan in the movie. But when they go to, in the animated movie, when they go to the live action one, there was a prehistoric orangutan that lived in India, and that one was giant. That's why the King Louie that Walken plays is this big, larger-than-life character, because he's a throwback to the ancient orangutans that roamed around India. And so in making him larger and getting Walken to do a deeper, sort of more sinister-sounding song, it comes out clearly in the live-action one that came out, 2017, that, oh, Louie is not a good guy. He is not somebody who is to be trusted. But the one that I want the fun-loving one. I want the one that is doing the ooby-loo while whispering, hey, what's the secret to fire, dog? Go ahead and tell you, boy. I won't do anything with it. Let me know. So give me King Louie, number 4.
It's a good one. Because usually if you went Jungle Book, it would be Shere Khan, the tiger. So, sneaky.
And I don't think Shere Khan is a villain. I don't. And this is where Disney does, in a lot of their movies, they do a good job of, hey, morally, sure, you can't be out here trying to eat people. I think of Shere Khan almost like I think of Killmonger, where Shere Khan is right. These people, these things are coming into our home. They're destroying stuff. They're ruining our way of life. We've got to do something. Well, and that thing, you do got to do something. You have a right to stand up for yourself, but you can't be out here eating children. Like that's where the line gets drawn right there. Something should have been done. The animals should have banded together and did something to stop the encroachment of mankind onto their homeland. I'm just saying, like, don't eat a child. You can't do that.
It's true. All right, I'm going to go back to someone who could exist. That was a lot. That was basically a TED Talk on the Jungle Book, but I appreciate it. I am going to pick a villain from my favorite Disney movie of all time, Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
And we are going with
Gaston.
Oh! There are no strapping boys slick like Gaston. No one's quick as Gaston. No one's neck is incredibly thick as Gaston.
Yes.
Here's the deal. Gaston, again, someone who can exist in real life. He is the epitome of a male chauvinist pig. And he does a great job playing it. It is voiced by American opera singer Richard White, which adds a gravitas to the voice of Gaston, his muscles, his bravado, his assumption that, of course, this beautiful girl who loves reading and is a little weird, she's absolutely going to love me because I am the hottest dude in town. And when she doesn't love him, he goes full nuclear, which we see happen all the time when men don't get the woman that they want. And it goes so far as to when he is in the final fight with the beast on the castle hanging off the edge. And originally Gaston was supposed to say, "Time to die." That was what the line was supposed to be. And they changed it to "Belle is mine," which is perfection because it's just property. It's not about anything other than winning this woman. Now, I have a caveat to this argument. Gaston is my pick, but I say the beast is also a villain in this movie because the beast perpetuated the lie to young girls everywhere who loved Belle that you can change a man if you just try hard enough. It is essentially Stockholm Syndrome. Belle is locked in a castle with a bunch of inanimate objects and this beast who won't let her go, who kidnapped her father. She had to sacrifice herself to let her father go and get back to the village, crazy Maurice. And then Belle suddenly has to just stay there and be like, well, either I die or I figure this out and make this beast kind of like me. And she keeps working and working, and they do the big dinner and be my guest, and something's there. And then they fall in love, and then the beast becomes hot again. And it's just like, come on. The older I got, the more I realized the problematic nature of my favorite Disney movie of all time. And my husband reminds me of this all the time. But alas, Gaston is the true villain, but the beast is not innocent in this situation.
When was Beauty and the Beast the story?
The original?
Told? Yes.
Because it's an old French fairy tale.
Yeah, it sounds like it's something that you would tell way back when we were literally
1740.
When we were literally marrying women off like property. Like, hey, to save your family, you've got to marry this thing, this person who is going to behave beastily, and the only thing that you'll have to comfort yourself are the things in his house, the inanimate objects in his house. And if you do it long enough, eventually y'all will grow to like each other. Eventually, and then he won't be a beast. He'll look like a regular dude to you.
Yeah.
That's
with
why,
great hair.
Amazing
Low-key,
hair. Oh my gosh.
A lot of the Disney princes have great hair. The Beast, when he transforms back into the prince.
We should draft Disney.
Flow.
We should draft Disney Prince hair. My goodness.
Put it on the list.
Oh gosh, such good hair. That is a good one. I will go last pick here. Jessica,
Oh, God.
it is 9:20.
I knew this would take forever.
We're not going to have time to get to anything else.
Sorry,
We have got
I
to
think
figure
you talked
out.
about the Jungle Book for 7 minutes.
I'm pretty sure we've got to figure this out. But we do hours and hours of research
we
on
do,
these things.
and I want them here, so it's okay.
All right, last pick.
Take your time.
We'll talk about Peter Pan later. I'm not going to take Peter Pan.
Okay.
I am going to take a legitimate slave owner. Famous slave owner. Thomas Jefferson of his movie. The real life slave owner. Out there working these poor things to the bone. Out there making them do his bidding and he says it. Hey, we could stall them out. Accidents do happen. But if we do it here, they'll think we're soft. And they'll realize that there's more of them than there are of us. And if they realize that, the whole shebang is blown. So we've got to come down hard on them. We've got to be mean to them. Give me Hopper. Bug's Life.
Wow.
Hopper.
Hopper's scary too.
Hopper, and he's.
Who was Hopper voiced by? Do you have that in your notes?
Oh gosh, no, I do not. Gathering food is that you could substitute gathering food for the grasshoppers to picking cotton for slave owners. Like you could do that. Who is it?
This becomes a conversation of. You'll notice we're many picks in. I've not picked one of my favorite Disney villains.
I thought it was the Hades voice.
I just can't get over James Wood being the voice of that. The voice of Hopper.
So and what's the maniacal grasshopper's name? The one who he sends to go out there and threaten the ants. The one who's like, oh, he's gonna eat you. Why can't I not think of that one's name?
I can't think of it, but the voice of Hopper is Kevin Spacey.
Oh, that's who it is. Kevin Spacey. It's not old boy. It's not what's his name? What's Hades' guy? What's Hades' name? Why am I blanking on his name? Who's in Scary Movie 2?
I just called him the wrong guy, I think.
Gosh, but yeah, Spacey is the voice of Hopper.
James Woods. No, I was right. Yeah, James Woods.
Okay. And yeah.
If you take Kevin Spacey voiced character, I might take James Woods voiced character, but I'm not going to. No, I'm not going to. I have a better one. I have a better one.
Okay.
Any other notes on Hopper? That was a good pick. And he's a slave owner.
He's a slave owner.
Yeah.
And he has overseers that go out there and do his bidding.
Yeah.
And so that is, the ants are literally having a slave revolt right in front of us.
This is the truth. There was a Bug's Life ride show at Animal Kingdom in Disney World that wasn't a ride. You just went and sat, and it was 3D, and it had like things that would pop out of the seats. Nothing scared me more than the Bug's Life ride because of the Hopper piece. It was so realistic to me. I cried in a Bug's Life. I could ride Rock and Roller Coaster Tower of Terror at that point, but that Bug's Life show, it scared me for the rest of my life, and I remember it to this day. So, good pick there. I am not going to take Hades with my last pick. I considered it. Lord of the Dead, how you doing? Great one-liners for Hades, but he's also a character throughout Greek mythology. There's more to that. Disney didn't, develop Hades, obviously. Hercules is one of my favorite Disney movies, second to Beauty and the Beast. So it's tough not to take him. But instead, I'm going to take someone who is even scarier, who rounds out my team, and that is Chernabog. Are you familiar with Chernabog?
Name sounds familiar.
Chernabog from Fantasia. Oh! So here you are, a young child watching Fantasia, which was first made in 1940. 40. And you're sitting there and you're watching the sorcerer, and Mickey has the hat and he's all going around with Merlin, the sorcerer's apprentice, and learning his skills. And then you're watching Springtime Fairies and everything's great and it's all like classical music behind it. And then there's dancing hippos and you're like, oh my God, what a lovely artistic piece this is that I'm watching as a kid. And then Chernabog the demon pops up in Night on Bald Mountain and the Ave Maria segment. And this was actually a thing of my nightmares growing up. I hated this anytime I was watching Fantasia because I did have a weird obsession with Fantasia. I would fast forward past the Chernabog part. All I wanted to do was see the dancing hippos. Is that too much to ask for? This is literally just a demon. He is Satan. That is the reference. When they asked who inspired this character, Satan. If you're inspired by Satan, I think you deserve to be on a Disney villain movie draft. There is no real storyline there. He is just Satan with all of his minions doing Satan minion things and trying to take over the world within this one small segment. Terrifying. I hate that character to this day. The end.
What a great pick. All of the villains you said were on my short list. Mm-hmm. That one was not. I forgot entirely. I didn't know that character had a name. I thought it was just scary dude who pops up on Fantasia.
Chernabog.
Didn't know. That's great. Who else were on your short list that didn't get picked?
My short list included Lotso Bear from Toy Story 3. Nothing scarier than a pink fluffy bear that ends up being the villain. Bellwether from Zootopia, I think, is a great, more current pick, as you think that she's good. Like, any villain that has a turn is always impressive. Captain Hook. Captain Hook is a great villain. Which, again, great sidekick in Shmee.
All right.
And, one more. Jafar was on mine, Dr. Facilier was on mine, and then Mother Gothel.
Yes.
Another realistic piece.
Yep.
Terrifying. Your short list.
Who was the Zootopia one? The Zootopia one was the
Bellwether.
Spoiler alert, was the bunny, correct?
Yes. The lamb.
The lamb.
Is it a bunny or a lamb?
It's the lamb.
Yes.
It's
because it's a lamb in
one.
wolf's clothing is the whole
and so
metaphor there.
One of the good things about some of these stories is the villain isn't the one you expect it to be. And so abandon your prejudices at the door. The villain can be cute and cuddly sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, you said Captain Hook is a villain, and I disagree wholeheartedly with you on that.
Yes, Peter Pan is a villain.
Captain Hook is trying to do his job, which is escort the children to the afterlife. Pete, think about it. This thing comes in and can fly and takes you to a place you never grow older. You know why you don't grow older?
Because it's heaven.
Because you've passed away. And instead of accepting that, instead of, hey, it gets kind of lonely, and Peter Pan is a young sort of deity. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, okay, my job is to grab these kids and escort them to Hook ship so Hook can take them to the afterlife, Pan is like, no. I'm just going to keep these right here, and we're all going to hang out. And Captain Hook, you can't do that. Come on, we got to get this thing going. Peter Pan is the villain in Peter Pan. Because he won't escort the children the rest of the way to the afterlife. Peter Pan is the villain, not Captain Hook. We give Captain Hook a bad rap. It's not his fault.
Okay. If you're taking Peter Pan as a villain in that sixth man slot, I would take Pinocchio as a villain in my sixth man slot. Because is there any more annoying character in Disney?
He's not a villain. He's
a real boy. No, he's a villain. I just watched Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. You'll end up sobbing. It's incredible. 1 second you're watching it like, what did Jessica recommend? And the next, it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. And he ends up just fine. But my God, what an annoying little twerp Pinocchio was. Here he comes to life. Geppetto just wants his son back in the form of, a little wooden toy. And this guy runs off to Pleasure Island. He does everything the wrong way. And Pleasure Island is its own villainous world within the Disney universe. But Pinocchio just, and his nose grows because he's a liar and a cheater.
He only became sentient 2 weeks ago, Jessica. Like, he hasn't had the years of early formative years of experience.
He popped out of the wooden womb, the most annoying child. He never had the terrible twos. He never had the what are the threes? I don't know. They tell you all these ages. Every age of a child is apparently horrific. It just all culminates for him as like a 9-year-old. And why is a 9-year-old going to Pleasure Island? Why are they turning these children into asses? I don't know about you. I have so many questions.
Listen, metaphorically speaking,
nine is right around
about
the
age where you begin to figure out, Pleasure Island, these are the things I shouldn't be doing. Like, hey, about 9 years old, a friend introduced me to the Spice Channel, and woo, boy, let me tell you about the Spice Channel.
I can't have
Changed
this.
my life.
I can't have these
It was
conversations
revolutionary.
right now.
Oh my God. About 11, Pleasure Island, the Squiggly Channel. Woo! Get the Playboy on the squiggles. Yeah, man. Yes.
Never forget that first free 30-day trial of HBO when we had Kate or Cinemax on that movie channel list. For those who don't know, my mother is currently sitting in studio, so we're gonna stop this conversation and keep it at the Disney version.
I mean,
it's
Real Sex was
$9.29. What else are we doing?
Real Sex was a great show. Taught me so much.
Honestly, an informative show.
Yes,
as
it was.
the Bunny Ranch.
Yes.
You learned so many things, and truly, you only had like.
Yeah, maybe they would always give you one like minute and a half
And then it was
scene,
all storyline.
and then it was just boom,
it was
straight
all
storyline.
exposition.
Yes.
So
yes.
you learned a lot about
And you
how.
didn't see because you couldn't show things doing what happened. So you just see butts and breasts, and that was it. That was enough.
And you had to have people who were willing to sign a waiver. Can you imagine showing up to the Bunny Ranch in Las Vegas?
Do you know how
and being
expensive the
Will
Bunny
you
Ranch
please
is?
sign this waiver? Yeah, after the whole Lamar Odom situation, I really deep dived into how the Bunny Ranch was still operating. Well, did it officially close after
I think
the
so.
guy died?
I think the guy passed.
He did,
so
and I don't
closed.
think anyone took over in that situation.